So chapter 3, we are going to cover symbols. We've already created symbols. Remember how we create symbols? So we'll just go through that. We'll work with libraries. I did touch upon the libraries. We'll create a button. We'll assign actions to frames and buttons, and able to import graphics. Yeah, it's freezing, so I'll just have to go through it like this. So everyone should know that Flash allows you to keep movie files small by creating reusable graphics, which are generally vectors. You can throw in larger images, normal JPEGs, but that's going to in turn create your FLA file or make your FLA file much larger. So you're trying to avoid that and just play around with vector images. So there's 3 categories of symbols. Now when we launch Flash, if you launch Flash, we'll go through those 3 categories of symbols. Okay, once Flash is launched, we're going to go through the same process, ActionScript 3.0. The textbook does go through some actions which are ActionScript 2.0. So in this particular case, we are going to change to 2.0. So we're going to create a new file using ActionScript 2.0. Everything is going to be still the same. The only difference is going to be in terms of scripting. I'm going to once again change it to Classic View. So the textbook talks about the different types of symbols. We've already done this. So we are going to create, I'm going to select oval, and I'm just going to create a circle. And remember to rename your layer. I'm going to call it circle. Okay, following that, I want to convert this to a symbol. So the best way to convert it to a symbol would be right-click, convert to symbol. Right-click, convert to symbol. Okay, once that's done, we need to give this a name. This is the name that's going to appear in the library. So I'm going to call it just blue circle. I tend to avoid spaces. It's just a habit. But generally when you're coding, you should avoid spaces, even file names. Okay, once don't click OK. Now what we come to is we have the different symbol types. The different symbol types. So the different symbol types currently are going to be movie clip, button, and graphic. Movie clip, button, and graphic. So if we select graphic, okay, now remember the registration point. Currently it's set to the left. It's where you can pivot your object. I'm just going to put it in the center, just for the sake of it. Okay, then we click OK. Okay, so this is a symbol. We could double click on it. Now when we double click on it, there's our symbol and there's a new timeline. We could add additional layers here. So once again, we're on scene. We see this blue box, which represents that this is a symbol. Double left click. And now we see this object which we can move around. In fact, we can add other objects to it. So I'm going to create another layer. And here it says layer 1. This is still the blue circle. I'm going to create another layer and just have red circle. And I'm going to draw another circle which is going to be red. I'm just going to draw next to it. Okay, this is not a symbol. Neither is this. These are objects. We're looking within the blue circle object. So if we go back to scene 1, click back to scene 1 here. Now this is an object. We can move everything around. So we can basically group a lot of objects together and create it into one single symbol. So the benefit of that is if we don't want to individually move objects, but we want to move a group, we would generally create them into a graphic. But now within this, when we double click again, within this we can actually create another symbol and we could group it up again and so on, and we could readjust that, we could move that. So where would we want to do it? So if you look at a human body, we could have the face, the neck, the body, then on top of the body you could have clothes, so you can group them up like that, fingers. So you need to kind of get used to grouping them. Now if we go back to scene 1, and now we can go to the library, and you could also click here on the left side, you can click on there, or you can go to Window, Library, Control L is a shortcut. So library, and there is our symbol. Yes.
So how did you put them so that they went together?
I created the symbol. So let me do this again. I'm going to close it. Let me do this again. ActionScript 2.0. I'm going to create a circle, red. I'm going to now convert this to a symbol. I'm going to make sure it's graphic. I'm going to say red circle. Now I'm going to double left click. That takes us into the red circle. Now I'm going to draw another object, which is going to be maybe a green circle. I'm putting it on the same layer. And now if I go back to scene 1, there's my one single symbol. Okay, the benefit of this is we could have, for example, let me quickly show you where we could actually utilize this. So I've put this on a separate layer. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to have this tween, or create some animation. Okay, now, so I've got this sort of just going in, and that's it. Now, if I go back to scene 1, this is all one object. You know, I can move it around. I can move it here. Now, if I play this, let me first save it. Save as. I'm just showing you what you could do, so we will do more of that. Don't copy me here. So what we'll see now, let me actually move this to 35 frames. Okay, there's our animation. The benefit of this is I can move this anywhere I like. I could even duplicate it. I could say Control-C, Control-V, 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 all over. I'll just put it all over. Now, when we play this, we've got the same symbol, but just different instances. Rather than having to create something like this individually, each object. So that's why it's a good idea to make sure you nest objects. You nest objects. So here we just created a graphic. Now within that, remember I created a movie clip. A movie clip is what will allow you to animate, allow an object to animate. So let me do this again. ActionScript 2.0. What I tend to always do is I would create the initial object. So I'm going to try to create a face here. So we'll do a face. Something simple. So this is going to be my face. I'm going to give it the name face. So you don't need to copy this. So I'm just giving you an idea, just watch. So I'm now going to right click, convert to symbol, and I'm going to keep it as graphic, give it the name face. Now I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to give this the name face. And now within that, I'll create 2 layers and call it left eye and right eye. So I'll draw 2 further circles within that. say gray. Left eye, let's do white. And let's do a right eye. And make it a bit bigger. So now I've got these two individual objects on top of this. Now I can convert these into symbols too. I could say right click, convert to symbol, and I could have it a graphic too. I could say LI, left eye. Now the right one, I could do the same thing, but I'd leave it there for the time being. Now if we look at this, when I double click on this left eye, we go into the nested symbol. So this is where we are now. We could move this around if I like, or I could leave it where it is. But in addition to that, I could now work on the eye, say pupil. So now I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to create another circle, which is going to be the pupil. And I can have that tween if I like. So I could say the pupil would be, say, 5 frames, and it's just going to move left to right. I'm going to do it again, right click, convert to symbol. But this time I'm going to have it as a movie clip. So call it LI. Okay, LI, let's say L1I. And now I'm going to right click, create motion tween. Now I'm going to move it across a bit, then just have it sort of curve in. Now if we go back, usually what you need to do is you need to shift the frames 5 frames, because our movie is also 5 frames. Okay, that's nothing's happening there, because when we go into the tween itself, it's 5 frames. So the parent scene, or the scene itself, also has to be generally 5 frames. So now if we watch that, okay, the benefit of that, because we've got a nested movie clip, is we can also move the eye now. I could have create motion tween, and I could have the eye, move slightly, and also I could have the face, go from left to right. Create motion tween, I could say, I want that to go left to right. Now if we watch this, obviously it doesn't look great, but if we were to increase the frame rate, lower the frame rate to maybe 6, but you could see what's happening. But generally that tween will not look great at that speed. But if we just do the eye by itself, so the more you practice, the better you are going to get. So I've just shown you how to create a symbol, which was a movie clip, and then a symbol within a symbol, then finally the last symbol. So I've got 3 symbols. Now if we look at the library, we've got the face, we've got the left eye, that was actually the pupil, and then we've got the left eye itself, that tweens. So we've got 3 symbols. So now what I can do is, if I go into the library, just move that to the left, I can go to the library, I can actually drag and drop symbols. So you can have multiple movie clips running at the same time. So now I've got 2 faces, as opposed to creating the same one. I could also have just the pupil. I mean, nothing's happening there. Symbol. So let's try the left eye here. Let's get rid of this. Now we will see, in fact we could even place that on top of that. You won't notice. So you can create one tween and you could put it in different places, rather than me having to create another movie clip for the right eye. I've just placed it on top. Any questions on that? So going back to the library, it's a great sort of a place where you can find all the objects you create. Remember, Control L, or You could go to Windows, then Library. That will show you all the objects that you have. You can click on them, you could select them, you could even search for them if you just have so many objects. You can remove objects, you can create a new folder, and you could place objects within a folder, say a face. That's already there. Let's try a new one. Let's go back, Windows, Library. There. Now I could copy everything into that folder to be more organized. So now if I wanted to check anything on a particular object, I will just click on that folder. It's always a good idea to organize your work. Organize your work. Any questions on that? Any questions? You can also create a new symbol. You click on new symbol. You don't need to go through the timeline or going onto the stage. You go to the library, and we could say, you know, let's create a smile. You know, it's going to be a movie clip, and it goes to the subsection. Now I'm going to create a smile. Change the color. Best of smiles. So now I could take that smile, I could place it here. I could obviously resize it if I want to. So different ways of creating symbols and objects. Any questions on that? Now if you go to the data file, these are the data files you should see. So you could download them from Angel. So we're going to basically work on, I'll open the very first one. So the data file, creating symbols and instances. So here we have a car. We have a car. Now if we look in the library, there's nothing there because it's not an object. It's not a symbol. It is an object, but it isn't a symbol. So what I'd like you guys to do is create a symbol. Create a symbol. And while you're doing that, some of you, I'd like you guys to think, how could you make these wheels rotate? How would you do that? You know, we have this graphic. Could you do that? How would you do it? Something to think of. How would you do it? So I'll give you 5-10 minutes to convert that into a symbol. And the textbook does go through how you can select areas of it, how you can introduce a gradient. Remember the gradient we did? So we can do a linear gradient. So I could have here red, maybe a darker color at the end, to introduce more gradients. So you can play around with gradients to give it more depth. So convert that to a symbol and see if you can move that car from left to right or right to left. And remember these data files, I mean, usually the layers are not going to be named, so you need to get into practice of naming these layers. So it's going to be a car. So make sure you rename it to car. So based on that car example, how would you get that? How would you get two wheels spinning around Obviously, I haven't covered one thing where you're going to run into is going to how to rotate them. But right now, everyone should be able to get the car to go from one side to the next side. But before we do that, let me show you how to have objects rotate. So I'm going to create a circle, and I'm just going to put some boxes around it. Actually, let me do this. So I'm going to kind of create another one, and I'm going to just slice it. Let's change the stroke. I'm just going to slice it in the middle. And I'll do the same thing at the other side. So I'll just rotate it. So just gonna slice this into that should go. So I'll just go with that. I'm just going to did I just remove it? Let's try again. I'm putting it on the same layer, which I should not be doing. So let me just try another way. I could just leave it the way it is then, just half. So I've got this, it's going to be a wheel eventually. So I'm going to convert this to a symbol, call it wheel. So move it clip. And now to rotate this, what I can do is I can have a tween on the main scene, on the main timeline. I'm going to right click, create motion tween. And when you create a motion tween on the right side under properties, it shows you rotate. The number of times you want that to rotate, and if it's going to be clockwise or counterclockwise. So I'm going to select clockwise, and I'm going to rotate, I don't know, let's say 4 times. Now if we play this, as opposed to what some of you may be trying to do is turn it around. Yeah, exactly, which will take you much longer.
Well, it's actually kind of
Yeah. So you can rotate objects. Remember, the pivot point here is right in the middle. What I could do is I could change that pivot point to, say, I don't know, somewhere down here. And now, let's see if I got that right. Let's try again here. Now it's rotating around that pivot point as opposed to from the center. So what you do is when you convert it into a symbol, you would select it now right side on properties, select the timeline, then under properties you will see the direction you want this object to rotate. So the option is counterclockwise or clockwise, and the number of times, and the number of increments too, or degrees. So I could sort of slow that down, I guess. It's a bit too fast. So let's just do it once. So now that you guys know how to rotate an object, how would you have a car that just goes across with the wheel spinning around? So I'll give you around 10-15 minutes to see if you can handle that, you can complete that. So I'll pause the video. So download the data file. So we have a car here. I'm going to give it the name car, C-A-R. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, there is my car. I'm going to convert this, the whole object, into a symbol. It's going to be right click, convert symbol. It's going to be a movie clip. I'm giving it the name car. Now I'm going to double click onto my symbol. I'm going to rename the layer to car, and I'm going to create 2 more layers. I could just have 1 layer if I like, but I'm going to have 2 more layers for wheel. Wheel 1 and another one for wheel 2.
So after you create this object,
So the first thing I did was I converted this to a symbol, right click, convert to symbol, then I double click, then I created 2 more layers. This is just a vector image, they're all just 1 layer. They're just vector graphics, that's it. Here the wheels, I mean, they're not the same color, so I'm just going to change this to the same color as this gray just to make sure that I select all of it. So now I'm going to keep my shift key down. I am going to select all my wheel. I'm going to select it, then I'm going to do Control X. And I've left a bit there, I'm not too worried about that. And then I'm going to go to wheel 1, and I'm going to do Control V to paste it. And I probably did miss that out. So let me go back, try selecting it all. There you go. I think that's all of it. Control X, then I'm going to paste it onto the wheel 1 layer. There it is. Now this, when I select the layer, I can hide that. You could see it's on a separate layer. There's the car. There's the wheel. I can lock the car so I don't accidentally do anything to it. But what I'm now going to do is make sure I've selected the wheel 1 layer. Then I'm going to right click, convert to symbol. And I'm going to call it wheel 1. It's a movie clip. I'm going to double click on it.
You want it to be a movie clip, not a graphic?
No, because we're going to have it rotate. It has to be a movie clip.
Alright.
So that's going to be our movie clip. I can move that away now. But now I have this sort of hollow space. But let's actually just rotate it for the sake of it while we're here. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to ensure there's going to be a tween. I'll say 15 frames. Going to right click, create motion tween. It has to be a motion tween. And once I've done that, on the right side on properties, you will see direction. I want that to be counterclockwise once. And now if I go back to scene, now play my movie, there's my wheel rotating. The only setback there is, it wasn't a perfect circle. That's why it's behaving the way it is. So what I should have done was made sure that my width and height were both the same, 30.6. So now they're both the same. Now if I play it, it's perfect rotation there. Okay, now we'll do the same thing with the wheel on the back of the car. But what I can do is I can go to the library. I can just select wheel and drag and drop it. Just move it there. Okay, of course I need to change the dimension. 3060. And now I need to create the rotation for that too. And actually I put that on the wrong layer. Let's go back. It should be on the wheel layer. That's where I should drag and drop it. It's a separate object. So you need to make sure that that layer, the wheel, goes on to the wheel 2 layer. Now I'm going to create a tween here. right click, create motion tween. But before I do that, I'm going to change the height and the width, which have to be the same, 30.6. And now I can create the tween. And now I'll do that to once. It's going to rotate once and it's going to be counterclockwise. Now if we play it, we've got two wheels spinning at the same speed. Okay, we've just got the car going at the same, wheel spinning at the same spot. So what I now need to do is I need to go back to scene 1. And now currently I just have the car sitting there. So I need to create another tween. Okay, before you do create animation, it's always a good idea to plan what you're going to have animating. So now I'm going to have this car, say 100 frames. It's going to go from the left to the right. Now do right click, create motion tween. And now I'm going to just move it across. It's going to start off the stage. Now if we play that, there's our car going.
So I guess that just for me, I would have to.
So when do you decide if it's a graphic if there's no animation? The tween or a movie clip is if there's going to be movement. So for example, if we double click on here, this is generally, I could have my car as a graphic. Currently they're just separate vector, just objects. I could say right click, convert symbol, and I'm going to have this as a graphic. Say car C. So now I can actually just select all of it rather than having to select individual areas of my object. So I'm grouping everything together. So I could go into this, I could still access it, I could make, say, I wanted to make some changes.
That would explain why my axles weren't turning with everything else, is because I set them as a graphic.
But you did have a movie clip at one point for the wheels to rotate. You just,
No, they were graphic, but I tweaked. But I
but
still got them.
when you created the tween, it converted it into a movie clip. So it does automatically convert that. So you really cannot have a graphic.
Graphics are for stationary objects.
Exactly, yes. Yes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this and I'll upload it to the NED server so you guys can actually play around with that. Not to the NED server, to Angel under week 3.